Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for Halloween, October 31st, 2025. Well, I hope everyone had a great evening, ready for another wild day in the market, but a little bit of easing here in the pace of earnings. Let's take a look at what happened here overnight. First off, if we take a look at Asian markets, well, they had a couple that really did well. The Nikkei made new record highs, up 1,085.73 or 2.12%. Pretty zooming move over there. South Korea was up 20.61 or 0.50%. But that was all for the wins in Asian markets. Australia was down $3.60 at 0.04% lower. Hong Kong fell 376.04 or 1.43% lower. India fell 155.75 or 0.60% lower, and Shanghai was lower by 32.11 or 0.81%. If we take a look at European markets here this morning, European markets are bearish across the board. We have the DAX now down 125.37 or 0.52%. We've got the FTSE down 49.58 or 0.51% lower. And we have the CAC down 35.81 or 0.44% lower. If we take a look at U.S. markets here this morning, well, we are zooming in the NASDAQ with Apple and Amazon earnings. Right now, we've got those futures just showing really, really strong, up 305 points in the NASDAQ futures. We've got S&P 500 futures as a result of those earnings as well, up 42.25. And we've got Dow futures at the moment down 35 points. Let's take a look at what we have going on in bonds this morning. Bonds are moving just slightly higher here this morning. We've got the 2-year bonds at 3.61% this morning. 10-year bonds are at 4.11%, and those 30-year bonds are at 4.66% here this morning. So cutting the rate and then suggesting that we're not going to get or may not get another rate cut in December, kind of disappointing the market. If we take a look at what's happening in the dollar as a result, the dollar is a little bit higher here this morning after a really strong day yesterday. Dollar futures are up just a little over 3 cents, and as you can see, we're breaking through this recent resistance here in the chart, holding that upside trend. So looking pretty good in the dollar so far. Let's take a look at how that's affecting things in the precious metals. Gold this morning is currently up $7.10 an ounce at $4,022.60 an ounce. Silver this morning is down, however, 11 cents at 48.50 an ounce. Let's look at silver there. And copper this morning is also lower by just 3 cents here. Platinum is down $16.17 an ounce or 1.03%. while palladium is trying to move up just ever so slightly here. And at the moment, palladium futures up $2.80 an ounce, or 0.19% higher. If we take a look at cryptos, boy, those cryptos had a really rough day yesterday, but they are bouncing back with a vengeance this morning. We have Bitcoin at the moment up 3,222.10 an ounce, or 3.02%. Ether this morning is up 139.56, or 3.76% higher this morning. And Solana is also higher by $6.71, or 3.73% higher this morning, with green across the board in the cryptos. When we take a look at oil here this morning, we've got oil moving just a slightly bit lower, 27.5 cents a barrel lower at 60.30 a barrel. Brent crude is coming in at 64.80 a barrel, and natural gas is getting a big bounce up here this morning, up 14 cents, just a little over 14 cents. So trying to push higher here this morning. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we just settle in, let's buckle up, let's get ready for the Halloween, the spooky version, I guess, of the Friday report. So here we come. I'll meet you back here in just a second. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here today. I really, truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at these charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. Shake off that bias and focus in on the chart. Well, I got to tell you, this little resting pullback in here right now in the diamonds sets up a very, very bullish looking chart here at the moment, except for that possible topping, little topping type pattern in here. If the bulls and obviously the big tech is continuing to levitate this market to incredible valuations, and I think there's every reason to believe we could shake this little bit of bearishness off this morning here in the Dow, hold on to this little area of support, continue to stretch on higher. You know, one of the things we've seen here over most of this summer and in through the fall is Fridays tend to be very bullish. So watch that carefully here. I can easily see that stretching on up, making new record high close possible here in the diamonds if those bulls can get going. If the bears were to have anything to say, I think the critical spot would be, of course, breaking that support. And if it did do that, we've got this gap in here that could be filled. So watch that carefully. If it does drop, it could move pretty quickly into that gap. Now, where it would really start to become worrisome is if we continued that fall in here, breaking into this gap and falling below that area of price support in the chart. Now, I think it's going to take something pretty substantial to make us move there, but watch that closely. Big moves, I think, are still possible in this market, and big upsets are possible in this market. Let's take a look at our SPY. SPY continuing higher here this morning. Nice little hammering type pattern in there yesterday as we bounced back up from that selling. We came close but didn't quite make it in there to filling that gap yesterday, so we'll want to be watching that carefully. But for now, we're looking pretty good overall, I think, in the SPY, and with the bullishness in Apple and Amazon today, I think there's a good chance we carry this right on higher. And you can see it really wouldn't take all that much for us to pop up here and have a new record high at the close in the QQQ. Now, if the bears were to do anything, I think breaking this area right here would probably embolden the bears just a little bit, and we could see that push down here in the chart and maybe actually fill this gap in the SPY. And then breaking below here, there's not a whole lot of support in that little spinning top right there. Then that's where we would really start to raise a little bit of worry in the market if we really broke through there. So watch that carefully. Now our QQQ, extremely bullish here this morning. Every reason to believe new record highs are possible here on this move today. So blue sky above in the QQQ. If the bears were to have anything to say, first thing I think we need to break back down through that area there. Then we've got a little gap in here on this candle. Whoops, didn't draw that very good. Would be the potential to be filled. And then of course beyond that it would be down in here and the big gap below there. So we would need something substantial to move us in that direction. And with the bullishness of Apple and Amazon, and and unless something changes here today, I would suspect that stays pretty bullish. And then if we look at IWM pushing back here, continuing to show some weakness. It doesn't benefit from all of the big tech hype, and continuing to drift lower. Now we broke this upside trend here in the chart, but if the bulls can find that inspiration here today, we might see that push back up, see if we can at least retest that downtrend break and maybe some of this resistance right here in the chart. And then if we can pump on through there, then I think we have that chance that we stretch on up toward that new record high. If the bears, however, have anything to say here, it gets a little bit more critical here in IWM, because it's not that big a stretch to see that breaking down below there and reaching down toward this last low. So watch that carefully. If that were to break, then that might change a little sentiment here, at least in the IWM. I don't know that it's going to affect the big tech giants at all. Let's take a look at our VIX. One of the things we saw yesterday at the close, our VIX was continuing to show some strength here. We pushed down and then whipsawed back up in the VIX, pressing resistance here in the chart. One of the things that this market is it's very odd. I can't remember in my career seeing anything like this in the market, where we can have such low participation in stocks and still have the markets stretching to the upside with just a handful of companies doing it on their own. So our breadth has been extremely low, and we have been seeing this little bit of fear rising up here, as well as we continue to make those record highs in the market. So watch that carefully. If the bulls continue with this inspiration today, I think what we need to see is we need to see that fear begin to drop off. If you've been trading options, you've been noticing just the incredible spread between the bid ask in options, really wide, showing that uncertainty here in the market. We need to settle that down a little bit if we're going to continue this bullish run. So watch that carefully here for that potential break. But if the bears were to have anything to say and kick back in here, then I would be watching this area up here, because breaking through that resistance up here really probably raises a bit more concern in the market. So watch that carefully if that were to occur. Now our T2122, probably one of the more hopeful things for a good strong rally, and we're likely going to see that, is this pullback here in T2122. Yesterday, as we were continuing to show quite a little bit of tenaciousness here in the market, well, we just faded back here on our T2122. The 4-week new high, new low down here in the lower end of the range. And if the bulls can find inspiration today like they did in Apple and Amazon, then I suspect we've got plenty of upside room for them to run in here. The surprise would be if the bears were to continue to have anything to say, and we would push down into this bullish reversal zone and kind of get into a little bit of extreme in that area. But I don't know, Friday and the big tech reports that we had, I don't see that probably occurring. So watch that carefully here. Now our T21, and this is just the concern everywhere in the market, is the lack of breadth, the lack of participation that we're seeing in the market. Big tech is pulling, it appears like it's just sucking money out of everything else. Because we're not getting participation in other places. So our T2108 continued down yesterday, didn't quite fall below 30%, so we're holding just above that. But when you think about, we're setting new record highs almost on a daily basis here in the indexes, and we've got just barely 30% of the stocks in the market holding above their 40-day moving average. That is a very unique situation here in the market, and T2107 also showing that concern. Now, we did hold above 45% in here, but once again, with all these record highs, and we've got 45%, around 45% of our stocks trying to hold above their 200-day, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence in participation here in the market. It's very one-sided. It's very centric in just big tech. And I don't know what that says about the market. It's a unique situation that we've got here where we've got companies that are large enough that they literally dominate the entire index when just a couple of them move. So keep an eye on that. And then our T2101, this has been a concern for some time, as the T2101 just really hasn't picked up. Normally when we're making record highs in indexes, we're going to see T21 all the way up in here in these ranges. T2101 has been weak and has remained weak as we continue to make new record highs because the participation rate is just not there. So I guess what we can learn from this is just to be really careful, because if those big tech giants do start selling at some point in time, it's going to be rough on the entire market. So just be careful in here. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for the day. And our economic calendar, we've got a little bit on this list to be wondering about, but probably a pretty good chance we just don't get the data. Personal incomes and outlays, the core PCE report here is on the calendar here today for 8:30 a.m. Just like yesterday, we just didn't get the data because of the government closure. So in a lot of ways, we're flying blind here in the market, but big tech has made it so nobody cares about that. We've got employment cost index out. I don't know if we'll get that as well. By the way, personal incomes and outlays, the consensus is looking for in here month over month to stay there at 4%. 0.4, that's down from the 0.6 last time. Month over month, we're looking at that staying flat. Year over year, maybe 1/10 higher on the PCE number, and then on the core number, up 1/10 and flat on the year over year. So keep an eye on that if that number does come out. We also have the employment cost index, looking for that to stay basically flat year over year, maybe just a 1/10 increase here according to consensus. We've got Logan that will be speaking. We've got a Chicago PMI that we will probably get, looking for that to increase to 42.0 up from 40.6. A little improvement there. Bostic and Baker Hughes rig counts and those farm prices here today, which probably won't mean all that much to anybody. Then if we take a look at our earnings here for today, well, much fewer earnings today, so a lot less inspiration. So keep an eye. You might want to grab a screenshot of these and take a look. Here we've got a couple of big oil, CVX, ExxonMobil is in there today. And if we take a look at CVX, we're getting a little bit of a pop here to the upside, and ExxonMobil is moving to the downside. So watch that carefully. But Exxon had good numbers, so yeah, we'll see in here if any of those oil producers can get anything going here today, so watch that closely. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you can do me that favor and click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment, that helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does that. I really appreciate it. Means a lot to me. I am running 2 rooms again today, and I'll do my best to answer those comments. So thank you so much for everyone who does do that. Let's take a look at some of the stocks that we could be wanting to watch today here in the market. First off, I gotta tell you, these solars continue to look pretty good now. First Solar had a pretty strong drop and then a rally right back there yesterday. So watch this carefully in here. If First Solar can get something going, I'd place a price alert right up in here and just wait for it and see if that can pop on through to the upside. But we've been seeing some pretty substantial strength in some of these solars. They've been holding in there really strong. So watch that carefully here also, and run. Starting to look pretty good. Take a look at a few of the banks out there. A few of the big banks starting to come around. We've got Citibank pushed up through that downtrend, trying to hold in this pattern. All we need is a little bit of bullishness, and I think we might see Citibank stretch on through to the upside. Goldman Sachs also having a good day in here. Yesterday ended up fading back at the end of the day, but as you can see, trying to break through this resistance here in the chart, which may give us that first higher low after the downtrend. I think there's an opportunity here that may be perking up in some of these bigger banks. I think that's worth paying attention to. Now, there are those out there that are starting to show little concerns as well. So remember, you got to be really picky and choosy in this market. The volatility has been pretty challenging in places, so really be choosy about the stocks that you're looking at here in the overall market. Let's take a look at a few other places here in the market to be paying attention to. I still really like the way GE is setting up here. GE, nice little run to the upside, and then we're resting here just a bit. If we can catch, and by the way, this line I've got in here, it could be maybe out there a little bit, and we need to rest a little bit more in GE, but watch that carefully here. If we got a little bullishness going in the market today, I think there's every reason to believe that could continue to push on through to the upside. So watch that carefully here. NIO, I had an alert up here. I was waiting to see if it could continue to extend. It fell, but it hasn't been a bad fall. You can see we're just holding in this area here in the chart. Now, I do think this chart has that potential. It could go either direction. You know, right in here, this could set up that lower high, and we could move to the downside. But if we can continue to hold up in this range, maybe we get those bulls stepping up and we start stretching up and resuming an upside trend. So keep an eye there on NIO. Really still enjoying the way these uranium plays continue to work through their process. So UEC looking good, trying to come up here, hanging in, a little bit of rest, a little bit of consolidation in that area would set up that next opportunity to stretch on through to the upside, and I could see that happening, you know, pretty much at any time. So watch that carefully in here if those bulls were to get going in there to the upside. Certainly a possibility. volatility. If we take a look at some of the others out there, like UUUU, that's holding in a pattern. We just have to sneak this out from underneath here just a little bit, and I do think that's possible since we're kind of resting in there on that trend. So watch that carefully on UUUU. URA also holding up strongly here as well. You know, I was watching this EXE. EXE could really benefit in the natural gas area here of the market with all the new liquefied natural gas infrastructure that's been built on the southern coast. But reported yesterday and just kind of fell apart. So I'll be watching this, and this lower high in here still gives me that concern that what we could end up doing is we could end up in just a downtrend here in EXE. So keep an eye. We do have quite a few stocks that have been getting selling while we've been focused on, you know, the big tech giants, but watch those closely. Take a look at like STX. STX, nice chart, really strong move here after earnings, breaking through this resistance. Now what I'd be looking for here is a little bit of rest, a little bit of consolidation after breaking through that high. Just rest back and consolidate a little bit. Maybe we can resume that upside trend in here soon. Watch that carefully on STX. And I'd say the same for WDC. WDC, really strong move up through here, and just looking for a little bit of rest, a little bit of consolidation. Now, keeping in mind that just after earnings we can get a little volatility in there, but watch this. If that rests just a little tiny bit in here, then I think there would be that opportunity that could push on through to the upside. Keep an eye on those. And other big techs like AMD. AMD looking good in this nice little resting pattern in here. All it needs is that little bit of push of bullishness, and I think AMD could push on through to the upside. So keep an eye on some of those, looking just pretty darn good in a lot of places here in the market. It is interesting that when we take a look at like XLU is now pushing down. This has been one of those areas, kind of that safety area of the market, and that seems to have faded here now. We were really pushing those utilities up, but I want to caution everyone from throwing utilities out of the case or out of your mix, because when you think about AI and the demands of AI for power, I think these are going to come back around. So watch that carefully in here. You might be able to pick up something there eventually in utilities, but they are pushing back at this moment. Keeping an eye on other stocks here in the market, I do think you still want to continue to watch some of these precious metals. GLD, a big strong pullback in here. If this can rest now for a bit, settle down here just a little bit, rest, holding on to that support. This is quite a correction here in that chart, and I think there is that opportunity. Those could start to move back up here eventually, so keep an eye on some of those precious metals as well. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day and also a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much for support, the kind support that you show me in this channel. I really appreciate it. You guys are truly awesome. Have a great weekend, and I will see you back here bright and early Monday morning. So with that, take care, and I wish you all the very best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.